right, good morning, boys and girls. And this morning, what we're going to practice doing is just representing this number value that you see right here. In my chart, in my place value chart that's already labeled for me, I see that I have the number 1 in the ones place, the number 0 in the tenths place, the number 7 in the hundredths place, and the number 9 in the thousandths place. So where we're going to start this morning is we're going to start with our shading, because this is kind of like building a number, which we've been practicing since Friday. And instead of actually building the number, we're actually going to do some shading that models the number that's represented. So right now, when I look at the ones place, I'm thinking to myself that would be like my flat. And so I'm going to go ahead and do some shading here. And just to kind of save time, I'm just going to do a little pattern here. It helps me with my shading. I can do it quickly. And I know that this is shaded to represent one whole. When I move over to the tenths place, I don't have any tenths that are represented, so I know that the number that I'm going to be shading is going to be less than one whole column, one whole rod. When I go to the hundredths place, that would be my little individual pieces, and so I see that I need to shade 7. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and shade in 7. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And when I move to the thousandths place, which is that very tiny amount that's represented there, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see that, I have the number 1. So these would be like our little red pieces that we were using, and I need to shade in 9. So with my pencil, I'm going to go ahead and shade in 2, 4, 6, 8, and 1 on top makes 9. So now what I have represented is the number 1 and 79 thousandths. And since I have that number shaded, I'm going to go ahead and write the decimal in the fraction form, which we've been practicing on our whiteboards. So if I think about my place value marks, and I encourage you to use your place value marks, we have our ones place, our decimal, our tenths, our hundredths, and our thousandths. So as I begin to think about what numbers go where, I know that we have one whole. We had 0 tenths. I had 7 hundredths. And then I had 9 thousandths. And we've been talking for a few days about how every decimal has an equivalent, so we're going to use our equal sign to show the fraction form. The fraction form is going to look like the one whole standing by itself, and then we have the number 79, and the 79 is in the tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. So our denominator is going to be 1,000. Moving over to our written form, we're going to use words to describe what we've just shaded and we've just modeled in standard form. So we're going to start at the beginning and write the word 1. We have our decimal, which we use the word and. And the last part of this we read as one number, 79. And we give it a last name of the denominator name, which is thousandths. Moving on to our expanded notation, we have two formats for each that is expanded. For our expanded notation, we have the fraction form, which you are expected to recognize in 5th grade, along with the decimal form. So remember, expanded form is just breaking that number apart. So we're going to start with the digit in the ones place, and we can say 1 times the value of 1. We're going to add that to, we don't need to really say anything times 0 because anything times 0 is going to be 0. So I'm going to go ahead and skip the tenths place and move on over to the hundredths place. So the value of the number is 7, and the 7 is in the hundredths place, so we would be multiplying it by 1/100th. And we're going to offset that in parentheses. We're continuing on with the number 9. The value is 9, and the 9 is in the thousandths place. And we're going to put that in parentheses. So there's our expanded notation in fraction form. Let's move on to our decimal form, which is going to look like the same when we think about our whole numbers. 1 times 1. But when we get behind the decimal, we're going to use the decimal value to show the fraction of that place value. So again, we're still starting with the value 7, but the 7 is in the hundredths place, and we're going to record that as 0.01. That represents 1/100th times 7, which would give us 7/100ths. Continuing on, we're going to go to the next number, which is 9, and 9 is in the thousandths place, so we would record that value as 0.001, and when we multiply 9 times 1,000th, we're going to get 9 thousandths, which is what is represented in our standard form. Finally, moving on to our expanded form. Our expanded form is just writing the value of the number as it is. So we're going to start here with 1, and we can say 1, and we're going to be adding that to our fraction form of 7/100ths plus our fraction form for 9, which would be 9 thousandths. And then representing that as a decimal is going to look much the same except in decimal form. So we're going to start with our whole number 1. We're adding that to 7/100ths, so we're going to record that as 0 decimal. The 7 needs to be in the hundredths place, like so. And we're adding that to the number 9, which has a value of thousandths. So we're going to add that to 0.009. So that if we were to put that together, we would get 1, and then we have our 10th place, which nothing is there. 7 is in the hundredths place, and 9 is in the thousandths place. We can also do that with our fraction form, which would be 1. Our denominator is going to be 1,000. It's our highest place, our lowest place value represented. And we have 7 and 9, which would be 79 thousandths, which is what I have represented here. Remember, math should make sense, boys and girls. So all of this that we've just represented is one number being represented in multiple ways. Go ahead and turn over to the other side, and you're going to do this example with your elbow partner today, and we will be checking this together towards the end of class.